Have you ever been in a situation where you ask God for help, you need help with whatever the issue is, wherever the problem lies, you can't figure it out on your own, and you pray and you ask, and then you start resolving the problem yourself? You see, numerous times in our lives, God would love to help. He would love to do things. He would love to make things happen in a better and more powerful and potent and amazing way, had we not been in the way. We do this all the time to Him. We ask Him for help, and then we get in the way and impede His power and ability and prevent Him from actually doing things much better than we ever would, just because we had to get involved. Today, I would like us to talk about this passenger seat concept in our relationship with God, where we are still actively engaged with everything, but we are not preventing Him from doing the part that He needs to do that we can't accomplish. Now, how that happens? Very easily. And today, based on the story of Exodus, described in Exodus chapter 14, the story of crossing of the Red Sea, I'm going to try to elaborate more on it, and I hope that it's going to help you guys understand better the dynamics between you and God. This interaction that we are trying to constantly keep in balance, where I don't want to do too much, but I don't want to end up doing not enough. I want to make sure that I'm right there at the right place with the right amount of involvement, so I'm not in God's way, and yet I am still taking part, active part, in solutions of my problems. My name is Pastor Milos. I am the associate pastor in the Arvada Adventist Church here in Arvada, Colorado. I've been working with Dr. Gordon for years, decades even. And I thank you for watching our TV show. And I wanted, before we start with this study, I wanted to welcome you to come and visit us. Come and check out our church. Get to know us, especially if you're here in Northwest Metro of Denver. Let's spend some time together worshiping God. We are meeting on Saturdays, not on Sundays, on Saturday mornings. You can find out more about it on our website. But come and introduce yourselves and tell us about yourselves. If you have a testimony, share it. Let's give God the glory with what He gave us, and let's make other people's lives better and more spiritually potent thanks to what God gave us. We also have community service that we do that you can join if you would like to. We have local community service. We have some national community service that we plan, even international down the road. All of these things are our attempts to serve and do and answer pretty much the call that God made and gave us, so we can be a church that He can be proud of. Okay, let's get to our message. And I would like us to start our message with book of Exodus chapter 14, verse 10. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. Now the backdrop to this verse, for the ones who are unfamiliar with the story. People of God were slaves for centuries in Egypt. And same thing, like they cried out to God in their suffering, and God hears them, and He decides to send Moses to get them out of the slavery. So Moses gets over there. God does these crazy miracles, these devastating disasters, plagues that pretty much hit the whole country of Egypt, and everybody sees the supremacy of their God over Egyptian gods. Everybody realizes that what's happening right now is way more supernatural than you can even imagine, and it's something that you want to pay attention to. So God takes His people out of Egypt. They're leaving, and Egyptians are even kind of sending them on their way with giving them gold and silver and packing them up so they can leave. And now they're in the desert on the way, And the desert has a scorching sun during the day, so God puts up this big pillar of cloud to protect them from that heat. And then the night comes, and the night has this huge difference in temperature, where the temperatures drop down to 30s, and God puts up this huge fire cloud to kind of keep them warm. Pretty much what's happening is God is showing them not just His power, not just His ability to protect and take care of them, but He is really showing them His compassion and His care for them. He's showing them that He's there in their benefit, that He's on their side. He's really trying to be the dad they always needed. And it's obvious. Based on the story, imagine yourselves witnessing all of that. It's pretty obvious who God is, what He's capable of, and that He has the ability to actually deliver no matter what the problem is. But now we are getting to a bigger problem. So God tells them, no, I don't want you to go up there. I don't want you to see the wars. Let's go down south. And where are we going down south? There is nothing down south. And really, there was nothing. The only thing that was down south was endless ocean, starting with the Red Sea and then going down. There was no way that they could get by and cross to where the promised land is supposed to be. So what happens is they end up on a beach. God brings them on a beach of the Red Sea, and they're like, okay, what now? What's going on now? And then they turn back to the mountains behind them, and they see a whole Egyptian army at their knees, at their right behind their back. And they realize that they are screwed. Because right now, they're in a situation that has no solution whatsoever. And this is where this Bible verse kicks in. So Pharaoh draws near, and people of Israel, they lifted their eyes and they see that Egyptians are marching. This is a military conquest getting ready to charge at them. And Bible says they feared greatly. Luckily, what was their response? The people of Israel cried out to the Lord. Now, what is a common response to fear? We have these natural, instinctive responses to fear that we apply anytime we get depending on the situation. And those are those 4 F's that you guys are probably familiar with. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. One of these is going to get engaged when we face some kind of a fear. And think about your fears right now. I don't know what is bothering you, but you do. Give it a thought. Like, is it your health? Did the doctor say something that you really didn't want to hear? Is it your relationship? Is there a rift being created that you really need to fix and patch? Whether with your significant other, whether with your kids, maybe with your parents, whatever it is. Is it job? Is it finances? Are you struggling to make ends meet? Are you wondering, how is this going to work out? All of these things are a big problem. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the God. That is true. But at the same time also, the bigger the problem, the greater the fear. Because the question is really that we are asking when we are afraid of the problem, of something that didn't even happen yet, what we're really facing is our expectations of what is life going to bring me. How is this going to end? Where is this going to take me? Is it going to destroy me? Is it going to break me? Is it going to ruin everything I've got? What is going to happen? Those are the questions that raise in us and that create us to think of one of these 4 F's. How are we going to act? Are we going to fight it? Are we going to run away? Are we going to just freeze and hope that nobody notices us? Or are we going to fawn, try to appease, try to do something about it? So in this case, people of God realized really quick that none of these things are going to work out. They couldn't fight them. They had nowhere to run away. Freezing wouldn't help because they were the only ones there. Maybe fawning would help, but Pharaoh was way too angry at that point to even talk to them. He just wanted to annihilate them. So they have their last resort. And what was their last resort? Ironically, it says they cried out to the Lord. Now, I mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again probably many times. There is nothing worse than when your prayer is your last resort. Your prayer needs to be your first responder. Whatever happens your way, wherever things are going, whatever is happening that it seems to be, that it seems to you that it's going to cause a problem, prayer is the first thing you do. First thing, you go to God. You don't have to ask for help. You don't have to ask for salvation. But you can come to Him and ask Him, where are you taking me with this? You know, how is this going to pan out for good? Ask those questions, but ask nonetheless. That's kind of the point. Now, usually we first try to fix things. And yes, in the meantime, we have prayers here and there, prayers here and there, prayers here and there. But essentially, when all else fails, is the moment when we come and say, really, Lord, help me. Like those are the moments when we really cry out to the God. When there is no solution. And this is what happened to them. They cried out to the Lord. They did not pray. They did not stop, join their hands, and quietly and eloquently somebody said a prayer, and they all said amen, and then they sang Kumbaya. No, that's not what happens. That's what happened over there. They were crying out to the Lord. They were yelling out. They were screaming. They were pouring their heart out finally to their God. Now, I want to challenge you to think about it as well. How many times did you ask God, what in the world are you doing? How many times did you tell God, stop already with this, leave me alone? How many times did you feel like God is not on your side? All of these moments are the moments of like true pain, true suffer, and true honesty before God. That is what plays a big role. That is why God needs us to cry out to Him. He wants us to be completely and fully honest with whatever is happening in our lives. Very often we have these shades that we use and these masks not to present ourselves fully because, well, you can't talk like that to God. Well, God shouldn't be in charge of, well, you know, we have these reasons why not to talk to God. But I'm telling you guys, and I'm serious about this, I'm really telling you, be raw in your prayers. Say what's on your heart. Say what's on your mind. He can take it. And He wants to take it. Because He wants you to be earnestly praying to Him. Because barely then, He is allowed to respond. You know, when your prayers are convenient, He can respond conveniently. When your prayers are shallow, He's going to respond in a shallow manner. When your prayers are general, He's going to respond in a general manner. But when you go straight to the point with the pain of your heart in it, that's when He can go straight to the point with the same desire in His heart, double, triple, tenfold than your pain is, to respond. And that's what you want. That's what you need. That's what He needs. He needs us to talk to Him in that way. Now, another important ingredient of a prayer is faith. Bible says without faith there is no point praying. Nevertheless, over here we see that these people, they did not have any faith whatsoever. They were expecting to die. They witnessed these miracles that God did, and if they really believed in their prayer, they'll be like, okay, cool, we're done. God is going to take care of it. No, they did not act like that at all. They were freaking out. And if they're freaking out, that means that their fear is bigger than their God. You know? That means that they did not have faith. But here's what they had. They had true, honest outpour in their prayers. And that's why God responded. Yeah, there might have not been faith as a catalyst for God to respond, but there was true honesty in what they were saying that opened the doors for God to respond. So, if you feel like you don't have enough faith, if you feel that you don't really believe that God can do it, that's okay. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't pray. Quite the contrary. That means that you should come to Him even more and say, listen, I'm not sure if you can do this. I'm not sure if you care enough, if you're close enough, if I'm close enough, whatever it is. But I'm asking nonetheless. Do that. Do that, because then you're opening the doors for Him to work through your honesty. The next lesson that I want us to think about, aside from keep praying, is give God room to breathe. It sounds silly, but very often we are in His face all the time as He's trying to do things. And we are taking out of His hands all the time what He's trying to handle. Give Him room to breathe. What does that mean? That means once you prayed, once you asked, step back and allow Him to act. This is immensely important, because this shifts everything in a different direction in your dynamics with God once you embrace this concept. And big things start happening more when you embrace this concept. Let's read the Bible verse. So, Exodus chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. And Moses said to the people, fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. And the Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. This is so awesome. It's so amazing. Now, elements of fear are stress, worry, anxiety, all of these things that we are so well familiar with because we experience them on a regular basis. Nevertheless, over here, we have what I call the substitute, positive substitute for these things. Moses, it almost feels like he is mocking them. So they're looking at the Egyptian army getting ready to charge them, and they scream in terror. And Moses tells them, hey guys, don't be afraid. Like, what do you mean don't be afraid? They're about to kill us. No, don't be afraid. And then he tells them, and they want to run away. They're looking around, seeing where they can go, what they can do. He tells them, no, stand firm. And then they're looking at their problem, and Moses tells them, see the salvation of the Lord. It feels that both God and Moses are making fun of their actions. But what actually God was trying to do, He was trying to get them to see a different reality that they were living in, but they were completely oblivious of, because they were so focused on the problem that they were dealing with, they had no solution for. They know that the consequences are going to be terminal, so they just lost it. That's pretty much it. They lost it. But God said, listen, this is not the only reality that is out there. Pay attention to a different reality. And then He tells them, don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation. Now, what was He talking about? Why did God want them to do that? Here's the thing. When you are fear-driven, all you will see is the problem. And at that point, you don't really give God any room to breathe. You don't give Him any room to do anything, because you are the one that is constantly engaged. And while you're engaged, God is like, okay, fine, I'll wait. He can wait. He has all the time. We are the ones that don't. You know, He wants us to do this. They cried out to the Lord, and He needed them to step back at this point. Did you say your prayer for whatever your fears or struggles and problems are? Step back and observe and see what is going to happen next. Because here's what happens. For as long as you're focused on the problem, the fear is not going to allow you to see anything else. But the moment your worry, your anxiety, your stress are substituted with peace, with assurance, with the glory of God, the moment these things become point of your focus. People would usually say, when I do this, things start happening around me. Doors started opening. Opportunities started popping up. And suddenly God is working. But this is the thing. It's not that God didn't work before. It's not that those doors were not there before. It's not that the opportunities were not there before. You were just so focused on the problem that you didn't even attempt to look around and to see what could be God doing in my spiritual peripheral vision that could actually help me solve this problem. God can do so much. He gives us instructions how to handle these things. But He also needs us to do our part. And that part is not to be in His way. So, do we need to be actively engaged in solution in our problems? Yes, indeed we do. But we need to have that done with a different attitude. We have to approach it with an attitude of assurance, with an attitude of faith. You have to listen to your faith. And that is the last lesson for today that I would like us to learn. I want you to listen to your faith more. Because here's the thing, God will give you a reason to believe, and He will point you out into where you need to go. And you need to stick to it no matter how things unfold. This is the hard part. This is one of the biggest kind of chunks to swallow that most of us are struggling with in our faith. Listen to this. So Exodus chapter 14, verse 15. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward." God is looking at them and He's like, "Why are you guys crying? Like, didn't you see all of these amazing things that I did for you? Why are you crying right now?" I mean, He knew the answer. It was to make a point to them, to make them rethink and to stop and ask us, wait, why are we crying? Here is why were they crying? They were crying because their fear was bigger than their God, you know? And then they responded accordingly. And God wants to tell them, listen, stop crying. Whatever your problem is in life, stop crying about it. Because here's the thing. You said your prayer, now listen to your faith. What does that mean? God tells them over here, tell the people of Israel to go forward. Now, what is interesting over here is like the only forward that they had was the ocean. There was the water. There was nothing there. They were on the beach. Behind them, the armies. Aside them, just miles and miles of beach. They stood no chance. The only forward was to step into the water and go. And they realized that this is not an option. But God tells them, go forward. Listening to your faith is not the most logical thing to do in problem solution. Because faith is not going to be logical. Very often what faith wants you to do is going to go against all logic. But the thing is, if you listen to your faith, if you're praying, and the doors start opening, and you start following these breadcrumbs that God is putting before you, the unfolding of the great scheme of things is going to be magnificent. Should you dare to follow not the logic and rational thinking, but the logic and rational thinking submitted to your faith. Faith is going to tell you, do the right thing no matter what. Which means that you might lose that promotion because you're not going to say things that are not truthful about the other person. Truth might be that you're not going to get a raise because you won't be willing to do what your boss is asking you to do because it goes against your principles. You know that is the risk. But the reward is you ask God and say, Lord, I really need that raise. Lord, I really need that promotion. And then you listen to your faith and see where it takes you. I remember a testimony years back, it remained with me for all of these years from one friend here at the church. He says, like, I was really praying God for more money. I really needed to make more money in order to make things happen for my family and for myself. And he says, the first thing that happened to me next week, I lose a job. And I'm like, God, what in the world are you doing? Like, what's happening? But I decided to follow, to see where is God taking me. Long story short, what happened was, very soon after, he got a much better job that was much better paying. Nevertheless, had he not lost his job, he would have never pursued this option because he felt pretty safe with where he was. And he didn't want to leave this position. He was hoping that things would happen in there where he could make more money. But once that was lost, for a brief moment of terror, he was wondering what to do. He followed, he believed, followed, and God opened the doors, and God made a resolution. So my point is, your faith might not make sense when you pray to God, but allow Him to work. If you don't allow Him to work, you're going to get stuck. And some people stay stuck in this place for months, years, some even decades, because they don't have enough courage to say, okay, God, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go for it and see what you do for me. I am yet to run into a person to tell me that God failed them and that they actually can prove it, that God failed them. He does not fail us. We are the ones who don't pay attention. We are the ones who take over. We are the ones who are trying to do it our own way. And then when we try to do that, God needs to go back and fix it in order for things to even happen the right way. But the whole point is, stop being in His way. Listen to your faith. And your faith is going to tell you this is the right thing to do. This is what's going to give God the glory. This is what's going to be the blessing to you and to most people around you. This is what you have to do. Might not be logical, might not be smart, quote unquote, but might be the next door to a most magnificent solution that God has for you. I challenge you to think about these 3 rules as you contemplate on your life. Pray raw. Listen to your faith and get out of God's way. Allow Him to work. And I'm telling you, things are going to start happening and they're going to be amazing and you will be amazed and you will be blessed. Go and bless others with that. Have a good day.